Rafael Devers still owns Gerrit Cole, but he overall hasn't been at his best lately. More on today's Locked on Red Sox.
You are Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked on Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast, part of the Locked on Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your host, Gabby, former ESPN social media associate and current host of the Boston Balling podcast as well. And I am here to bring you the latest in all things Boston Red Sox, Monday through Friday, straight to your favorite podcast feed. And the best part is it is all completely free. So you might as well tune in because Locked On is here for you every single day. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnMLB and use code LockedOnMLB, all lowercase, to win $50 instantly when you play $5. Happy Monday, although I should say sad Monday, given that the Red Sox lost a tough series 3-1 against the Yankees over the weekend. The Patriots also did take a tough loss yesterday against the Seahawks in overtime, but that's a conversation for another day. Very frustrated about that as well. But this whole Red Sox series in general was frustrating because they felt like they were well within reach and should have won the second game of that series. And the first game even was bothersome too. So I'm going to be touching on all of it on today's show. But this is the point in the season now where we do have to start looking ahead to the offseason in terms of honing in on who's going to be part of the future and who's not. And guys like Luis Guerrero, who has been pitching out of the bullpen and got called up recently, should have been called up much sooner than he was. And overall, he has looked relatively pretty good. In yesterday's game, he had a little bit of trouble with his command, so Alex Cora pulled him and didn't let him finish the inning that he was pitching in. But overall, he has generally looked pretty good for this Red Sox team. So he's somebody that I am looking forward to as being able to make an impact later on. But somebody in particular who we know is part of the future and is going to be here for a long time is Rafael Devers. Now, he still 100% owns Gerrit Cole. Cole even admitted it in an interview recently that basically Devers just has consistently owned him. Like, he's the hitter who has dominated him the most, like Latin hitter out of everybody in the majors. And he knows this and he admitted it. And it's true. I mean, Devers totally intimidates and scares Gerrit Cole now, to the point where Cole literally walked him in the fourth inning of Saturday's game with the bases empty, 1 out, and the Yankees were up 1-0 in the game. Like, literally intentionally walked Devers, didn't even try pitching to him. This was after he had already gotten hit by a pitch from Cole earlier in the game. So Cole was very clearly trying to avoid throwing anything in the strike zone to Devers. But then he literally walked him intentionally with nobody on base. And it was an interesting choice. And it was so early in the game too. So the most recent Red Sox to be walked intentionally with the bases empty were David Ortiz on June 19th, 2016 versus the Mariners. Manny Ramirez on June 5th, 2001 versus the Tigers. Manny Ramirez again on May 13th, 2001 versus the A's. Carl Yastrzemski on May 2nd, 1970 versus California. And Ted Williams on September 6th, 1953 at Philly. So, I mean, talk about a list of players for Devers to be in a club with, of guys who were intentionally walked with the bases empty. I mean, it really goes to show that Cole was willing to take his chances with the rest of the lineup and risk the Red Sox even taking a lead in that inning, putting the tying run on base instead of just risking that Devers just goes deep against him and it's a 1-1 game and then he's able to get everybody else out. But by handing the Red Sox a base runner for the tying run, that was a really interesting choice and just further solidified how scared of Devers Cole actually is. So in the Saturday game, the one game of the series that the Red Sox won, earning a 7-1 victory, Devers got a hit in that game too, because then later on in the game with the Red Sox having runners on base, he singled in a couple runs and Cole was still pitching. So he really does own the guy, and he very clearly makes Cole nervous. So he drove in 2 runs on that hit in the Saturday game. So Devers just loves going up against Gerrit Cole and likes hitting at Yankee Stadium in general. But the problem is he hasn't been hitting overly well in general as of late. In the first game of the series, when the Red Sox lost 2-1 in extra innings, he went 0 for 4 in that game. Then in game 2, when the Red Sox lost 5-4, he went 1 for 3 with a walk in that game. And then obviously his big game on Saturday. Then on Sunday, the Red Sox lost 5-2, and he went 1 for 3 in that one. But he hasn't been making a huge impact. I mean, the 2 runs for the Red Sox that came on Sunday were off of a Tyler O'Neill 2-run homer. And Devers just hasn't been providing lately the type of power that we've seen from him in the past and even earlier on in this season that we saw from him. So is it something that we should be concerned about? That's kind of the whole question here. Is he going to start hitting again? Is this something that's a longer term issue that we should be keeping an eye on? Or is he going to get it together eventually? So when it comes to Rafael Devers and his numbers, I mean, he recorded 0 hits against the White Sox on September 8th. He had a big game on September 9th versus the Orioles when he went 3 for 5. But ever since then, it's been 1 or 0 hits in each game. And his batting average is now at a 278 on the season with a 361 on base percentage and 529 slugging. So what I'm really looking at here is the discrepancy for him, because his batting average at home is a 302 compared to a 257 on the road. So generally this year, he's been able to provide a lot more value at Fenway Park. 389 on base percentage versus 332 on base percentage on the road. 566 slugging at home versus 498 slugging on the road. So there's definitely been a huge difference there in terms of his performances at home versus on the road. And in the first half, he batted 291. Now he's only batting 257 in the second half. That's a big telling sign of the fact that his quality of his at-bats and his ability to be productive have gone down in the second half relative to the first. So 291 batting average in the first half compared to a 257 in the second half. His on-base percentage was a 374 in the first half compared to a 336 in the second half. Slugging was a 592 in the first half and a 766 in the second half. So his numbers have dropped significantly in the second half overall. And I worry that he is just really exhausted and that shoulder pain is starting to really catch up with him, because earlier on in the season, he was hitting a lot better. I mean, 282 over the months of April and March. May batting 276, June batting 287. In July, he had a really good month. He batted 362 in July. So then think about this for a second. Huge leap from July to August. In August and September, he's batting 217. So 362 all the way down to 217 for August and September. What does that tell me? Because of how big of a drop that is, that tells me that he's still playing through that pain. That tells me that his shoulder issue hasn't been resolved and he's been trying to play through it. And the Red Sox have continuously been putting him in the lineup, even though he's playing through that pain. He's striking out. He's hitting weak ground balls. He's not making the same type of contact that Devers would normally make. And he's not coming through in big moments in the way that Devers normally would. And that's definitely, to me, not any sort of consolation about his talent. I don't think as a hitter, he's just decreased his effectiveness. I really truly think it's because he's hurt and he's trying to compensate for that, so his at-bats are suffering. So it makes me wonder why they still play him out there in the lineup every day. I think it might make sense to start giving him some more rest because of the fact that the Red Sox are basically out of the playoff race at this point, not mathematically out, but basically out. I mean, just need to basically string together a bunch of wins moving forward. But is it really worth risking Devers' long-term health by continuing to throw him out there every day? So yes, he dominates Gerrit Cole. Yes, he had a Devers type of game in terms of how many times he landed on base on Saturday when Cole was pitching. But other than that, if you take out that game, he really has not been productive lately. And we know Devers better than to say it's because he's declining as a player. He very much still has a lot of productivity left in terms of his age and what he can contribute to this Red Sox team. So it's definitely not about that. It's because he hasn't been fully healthy. And I want him to get healthy so that he can contribute right from the get-go next year, as opposed to risking him facing a longer term injury. And even if that means missing the start of the season next year, if he goes and gets surgery or something and has to miss some time, so be it. I'd rather have him there in the long term than for the right now when the Red Sox are struggling to keep themselves in playoff contention. So hopefully the Red Sox take that to heart and they realize that he really is in pain because his numbers have declined significantly over the last couple months, and they take that seriously and they decide maybe it's not best for him to stay in the lineup every day now. But we'll see how things go there. But another player that has been concerning in his return from injury is Triston Casas. Is this something that we expect to last? That's coming up next. You've heard me talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Well, I have something a little different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel anytime. Just visit FanDuel.com and download America's #1 sportsbook. You can win so much money on FanDuel and take advantage of their great opportunity to catch out-of-market NFL games. It's not every day you get that type of opportunity, so make sure you jump on that today. The Boston Red Sox lost yet another series over the weekend, dropping 3 of 4 against the Yankees, and it's starting to become more and more apparent that this bullpen just is not cutting it, and they did attempt some bullpen shakeups, which I'm going to be talking again about a little bit later on today's show. But one player who has been a bit of a concern since coming back from injury is Triston Casas, who came back recently in his return and has not been overly productive for this Red Sox team in that time. He wasn't in the Red Sox lineup on Thursday night because there was a lefty on the mound and they've been having him sit when games where there's lefties starting for the other team, but he did come in to pinch hit and was unable to execute on that at bat. Friday night when the Red Sox lost 5-4, he was in the lineup and went 1 for 4 with 2 strikeouts in that game. Then Saturday, the Red Sox won 7-1, went 1 for 4 as he was in the lineup. And then on Sunday, he again wasn't in the lineup and they lost 5-2, but he came in to pinch hit for Danny Jansen and struck out in his at-bat. And you know things aren't going well when he strikes out looking. Triston Casas is not a strikeout looking guy very often, but he did strike out looking then. And also Jarren Duran grounded into 2 double plays in the game on Sunday, so you knew it just wasn't the Red Sox day and not the Red Sox series, and quite frankly, not the Red Sox second half. But Triston Casas hasn't exactly had the return that people have been expecting him to have, as he has been trying to go out there and really contribute, and it's visibly frustrating for him not to be able to. He's at a 240 average on the season now, 330 on base percentage, and 415 slugging. But for him, he's struggled to get himself back on track. Away, he's actually been batting 239 and at home 244. So it's not like there's a huge discrepancy and it's one versus the other that's preventing him from succeeding as a hitter since he's been back. But his batting average compared to his on-base percentage is different. So his on-base percentage is a 346 on the road versus a 314 at home. So he's actually hitting a little bit better at home, but getting on base more on the road, which I thought was really interesting. And his slugging percentage at home is 500 versus just 348 on the road. So there definitely are some inconsistencies. So because those numbers vary in those different categories at home versus away, and there's no definite pattern on his numbers being higher for everything at one versus the other, we can't really come to the conclusion that he hits better at home versus on the road. So that's not exactly the case, but in 23 games in the first half, he batted 238. In 27 games in the second half, 244 total average. Now, in June, he didn't play, so batting average was at 0. But his August batting average was a 268, and now in September, it's a 206. So there's been a big drop off for him from last month to this month. And this is important because he's coming off of an injury in which he has missed so much of the season, went down in April, and he thought that at first he wasn't going to be able to return this season. So the fact that he's even back is a pretty big deal for him. But the issue is that he came back and now hasn't been contributing. So it makes you wonder if he needs more time to be able to recover before he's able to contribute in the way the Red Sox need him to. Because obviously he was feeling fine when the Red Sox activated him again, because they wouldn't have done that if he still felt like he was in pain. So obviously they saw some consistency in terms of where he was at in his recovery, and he felt like he was in a good spot to be able to come back and contribute to the major league team again. But he has a big drop off in his hitting with certain counts. So for example, on an 0-2 count, he's hitting 0.83, which is really scary. On a 1-2 count, just 161. And on a 2-2 count, he's just hitting 0.65. So any count with 2 strikes is a problem for him. But then you take his 3-1 count and he's hitting 1,000. So he's always making contact on a 3-1 count. But things that really stood out to me were just how bad he has been with 2-strike hitting. He cannot execute when there's 2 strikes against him. And that's something that he needs to fix right away. Because if you're a really bad 2-strike hitter, you're going to have a really hard time succeeding in the league after that. With a count that includes even count or 3 balls or 2 strikes or pitcher ahead, those are all really important. He is batting 206 when the pitcher is ahead in the count, but just 196 in an even count. So he needs to try to get better with managing that plate discipline of being able to still hit even if he's behind in the count and be able to rally back, because great hitters are able to do that. I mean, you've seen some Red Sox hitters be really good with 2-strike hitting this year, and that's something that has really held Casas back in his return from the IL. So when you break down his numbers, really, with a 2-1 count, he's hitting 556. So, I mean, when he feels like there's less pressure on him in the at-bat, he's naturally able to hit better. But the question now becomes, how does he improve in the area of when there's pressure on him in the at-bat? Like if there are 2 strikes and no balls or 1 ball, how does he handle the pressure that comes with those at-bats when he's behind? That's what I still have yet to see from him. And I do worry a little bit about his development in that capacity because he missed a lot of it since he was injured for a lot of this season. And last year being his rookie season, he was still learning the ropes, going through a lot of the motions, trying to figure out what type of player he was going to be. And then he went into this season hoping to have a big year. And I was hoping that that would be when he starts to grow and expand on some of those skills and he figures out a way to learn how to hit better in those types of situations and how to navigate those at-bats when he's behind and rally back in those at-bats. So now that he has been hurt and he's missed time, I do wonder if he's going to be able to make up for that and if he's going to be able to learn how to adapt and figure out that skill, because that's going to hold him back a lot moving forward if he's not able to figure that out at the plate. But I definitely like how he's been hitting with 0 outs in the inning, because he does bat 300 with no outs. So that's a promising sign, because if he's the leadoff hitter, which means there's no outs, or if there's base traffic and he's up with no outs, he can come through a lot of the time. So that's a promising sign as well, that with no outs, you want to get things going well on a positive note. So if he's leading off the inning and there's nobody out, in a lot of those situations, he's hitting well. So maybe he's hitting a leadoff base hit to get a base runner to start the inning, which can help from the standpoint of highly increasing chances of scoring. So that's good for him to do. Or if there is a runner on first and then he comes in, a lot of those times he's executing as well. So that's something that is really good to take note of. With 1 out in the inning, he's just batting 161, and with 2 outs, 266. So he's average with 2 outs, actually hitting better with 2 outs than he is with 1. With 1 out, for some reason, he just cannot hit, and he's almost a guaranteed second out. But with 2 outs, he is hitting a little bit better than that. He has a 356 on base percentage with 2 outs, which is something to be aware of. He has taken 64 at bats with 2 outs. So definitely has a good amount of experience in that position. And he's able to, more often than not, get a hit in those spots. But with runners in scoring position, he's batting just 227, which is another thing I wanted to point out, because that needs to be better. On base percentage of 292 and slugging percentage of 341, all with runners in scoring position. He needs to get that number up. 16 strikeouts with runners in scoring position, over 44 at bats this year since coming back. So that's another number, an area he needs to improve in, is being able to hit with runners in scoring position. So the opportune hitting, situational hitting is an area of need for Triston Casas, as well as that 2-strike hitting, and being able to be a guy who can be reliable in those situations and not just be somebody who's thought of as an automatic out, because there's nothing worse than seeing a hitter come up in a big spot and be saying to yourself, this is an automatic out. Nobody wants to be known as that hitter. So I'm hoping that throughout the course of these next few weeks and into the off season, he can really hone in on those areas and figure out how he can grow and develop as a hitter, and be able to just be more reliable when the pressure's on him in the at bat, or there's 1 out in the inning and he needs to find a way to get on base instead of turning into out number 2 and changing the whole outlook of the inning. So am I concerned about Casas? Yes. But do I think that's going to be a long-term concern? No. I think that's more of an immediate concern, and I think it's something he's going to address as we get deeper into this season and the off season. I think that's going to be a point of emphasis for him, and I think he's going to get back on track, and we'll see a better version of Casas next year. But there's no arguing that right now he's been very tough to watch in his return. So we'll see what happens with him. But coming up, I'm going to be talking about the latest roster moves the Red Sox made, as we get probably one of the most touching stories of any Red Sox prospect who finally got his opportunity and got his call-up. If you're looking for a fun way to play daily fantasy sports, Prize Picks has you covered. It's America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. All you do is pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in. 1 Caleb Williams passing yard gets you 1 win on Prize Picks every week in September. That's right, only 1 yard gets you an automatic win every football weekend in September. 4 weeks of free W's. Don't miss this deal on Prize Picks, because it's gone when September ends. You can basically select a variety of different players and different sports and stat types, and then you can basically cash in on all of those different things. So it's really great. Like, for example, Tyreek Hill for more than 90 receiving yards and Dak Prescott for more than 263 passing yards. If you pick yes to both of those and you hit on both of them, you can win lots of money. Just download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONMLB on Prize Picks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks, run your game. I'm telling you, if you're looking for a way to make some extra cash, Prize Picks has your back. I know my fiance and I both have, because we have some wedding and honeymoon expenses to pay for in the next couple months here. So that can benefit you too for whatever life scenario you're preparing for. As the Red Sox lost their series 3-1 against the Yankees over the weekend in very frustrating fashion, to me, the most frustrating game of the series was the second one, because the second one, the Red Sox had a 4-0 lead as they had gotten home runs in the game from both Trevor Story and Masataka Yoshida. So they had a nice 4-0 cushion to work with. But then what do you know? The Red Sox bullpen blew it, and that has been the scenario. After they had a 4-0 lead, Zach Kelly came in to pitch for the Red Sox, gave up 2 walks and a single to load the bases. So then clearly he didn't have it. So then Cam Boozer came into the game and walked Juan Soto to force in a run. And then Judge came in after that and hit a grand slam to give the Yankees a 5-4 lead that they would not relinquish. So, I mean, talk about frustrating. And then they had to change to another pitcher in that same inning and bring Greg Weisser in because Cam Boozer didn't have it either. And he was able to get 1 out before they switched over to Weisser. But that whole game went back to the entire narrative of the fact that the Red Sox have a painfully bad bullpen, like painfully bad. And this is where I get to saying they have no choice but to address this bullpen this offseason, and you cannot be giving up a 4-0 lead in 1 inning because your relievers don't have it. So as a result of that game, which was on a Friday night when the Red Sox lost 5-4, they then made a couple roster moves after that. They optioned both Cam Boozer and Zach Kelly to Worcester following that game because it was clear as day that neither of them had it and they need to get some work in AAA. So then they selected left-handed pitcher Zach Penrod to the active Major League roster from AAA Worcester, wearing number 67 for his Major League debut. And in order to make room for him on the 40-man roster, they designated catcher Tyler Heineman for assignment. They also recalled left-handed pitcher Bailey Horn so they could have another arm up there with Boozer and Kelly going down to AAA. But they made the move so he was able to get a spot on the active roster because of Boozer and Kelly getting sent down, and then they brought Horn up to essentially replace the other one of them. So Zach Penrod is somebody who has worked really hard to get up to the majors. He pitched briefly with the Rangers rookie club in 2018, but then spent 2 years on the sidelines due to both a Tommy John surgery and the canceled 2020 minor league season. He returned to pitch in the Independent Pioneer League from 2021 to 2023, and that performance caught the eye of Red Sox scouts and led to a minor league deal partway through the 2023 season. This year, he has a 4.16 ERA over 62 2/3 combined innings at AA and AAA baseball, as well as a massive 34.8% strikeout rate. So the swings and misses that he's getting definitely are standouts in his game. It's a wide variance in the minor league numbers because he did post a 2.80 ERA and 35 1/3 AA innings, but a 5.93 ERA and 27 1/3 frames in Worcester. So there's been a lot of question surrounding whether he can actually handle it at the big league level, and control has been a bit of a question mark throughout his career. And his walk rate also spiked up to 16.1% in AAA after just 9.1% in AA. So his walks are an issue and his control is an issue, but the strikeouts are not an issue. His upper 90s fastball makes him an interesting bullpen weapon for the Red Sox to continue to explore because he does get the strikeouts. Tyler Heineman, was somebody the Red Sox got in a trade with the Mets back in February, and he has spent almost the entire season in the minors, except for 2 games at the MLB level. And with his 2 appearances in a Red Sox uniform, he has suited up for 5 different teams at the big league level over his 5 seasons in the show. And he has also been organizational depth for 6 other franchises. He's hit .216 with a .297 on base percentage and .280 slugging, over 286 career plate appearances, with 174 of them coming as a member of the Pirates and Blue Jays in 2022. Because he has been outrighted before, he does have the ability to elect free agency and reject an outright assignment from Boston back to AAA if he clears waivers. So we'll see if he does and what happens there. But Zach Penrod's journey to the majors is definitely a touching one. He has a daughter named Noah May who was able to watch his debut, but she'll have to watch the video years from now to be reminded of what she saw, because she was only a week old when he got his major league call up. 27 years old, and he struck out 2 in a hitless 8th inning for the Red Sox in the 7-1 win over the Yankees on Saturday. I mean, what a spot to make your debut and be able to make an impact on the Red Sox pretty much right away. So he looked really good with those 2 strikeouts and not giving up a hit. And then he did come into the game on Sunday again in the Red Sox 5-2 loss. He just pitched 2/3 of an inning, giving up 0 runs and struck out 1. So both times that he has been out there, he has looked good for this Red Sox team. So he's somebody who I hope will start up in the majors next year as part of the bullpen, and it could be used as a piece that the Red Sox have out of their pen and see his potential, because he definitely has shown glimpses in these couple outings with the Red Sox so far this year. So I definitely would like to see how he's able to manage that next year and what kind of a piece he's going to be able to be. His daughter, Noah May, was born on September 5th and watched from the arms of her mom, Kyla, in the Yankee Stadium seats. He said, "My wife has been there for every step of the way, and to share that moment with her was incredible," after he posed for photos on the field with his wife and newborn. He was at home in Massachusetts on Saturday getting ready to put his daughter to bed when he was told of the promotion by the AAA Worcester pitching coach. He said, "I missed the first one and then I grabbed the second one. I just didn't recognize the number." So he entered after Aaron Judge doubled to lead off the 8th inning, and then he recorded his first big league strikeout to Austin Wells on a slider, and then fanned Jazz Chisholm Jr. on a changeup at the knees. He walked Jason Dominguez, but then retired Anthony Rizzo on a pop-up that third baseman Devers juggled. He threw 26 pitches on Saturday, 15 of them fastballs that averaged 95.1 miles an hour, along with 7 changeups and 4 sliders. Alex Cora said 8 days ago they had a baby, so today's his second best day of his life. That's the way we presented today. Very calm on the mound. Then when he got the 3rd out, he sat down in the dugout and he broke down. He broke down. I mean, we had so many stories about that the last few years. Independent baseball released Tommy John, and then they show up to Yankee Stadium and then get 3 outs. That's the cool thing about this. So he has worked so hard, has gone through lots of hardships in his career. So I'm really excited to see the type of impact he makes moving forward. And I hope the Red Sox continue to give him a chance, because with his bullpen needing shakeups, I mean, his 2 outings so far have been a heck of a lot better than the outings of like Zach Kelly and Cam Boozer and even Josh Winkowski. So I'd like to see him stay up. I'd like to see Luis Guerrero stay up and start in the pen next year. So we'll see what happens there. But Red Sox head to Tampa Bay next, day off today, and then 3-game series against the Rays, and then a big series against the Twins after that, where if they play their cards right, they could gain some ground in the wild card, just have to stay within striking distance and ideally win the series against the Rays and maybe even sweep. But we'll see what happens there. As always, as hard as it is right now, you do have to try to keep the faith. Also, check out Locked On MLB after this with Paul Sullivan, aka Sully, who will keep you updated on all things going on across Major League Baseball. You can find that wherever you get your podcasts, so make sure you tune into that next. Go Red Sox, and I will catch you on the flip side.